بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. صدق الله العظيم. We've heard many different advices in the previous days. Today I just wanted to touch upon one last point, inshallah ta'ala. And that is in regards to the aspect of Dhikrullāh and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we learn from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu from in regards to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. He would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. كان يذكر الله تعالى على كل أحيان. The Rasulullah would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. And the Prophet also gave this advice that لا يزال لسانك رطبا من ذكر. The remembrance of Allah or something related to the remembrance of Allah, we wish we could go back and change those moments to be such that we could have remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at those times as well. When they will see what they got for the moments in which they did remember Allah, they will feel that I wish each of my moments were spent in this way. Right? So that would be the only remorse and regret that the people of Jannah will have. So when we look into the life of our pious predecessors as well, we see that one thing is that they never left the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter how famous and how accomplished they became and how what level of wilayah they obtain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We heard about all these many different things in the past month in Ramadan, in the different sessions that were done. And we also heard about wilayah, the different levels of wilayah, different things. No matter what level of wilayah they reached, they never left the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we look into their lives and we see that one time somebody saw Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullahi alayh, they saw him with a tasbih in his hand. Tasbih, normal tasbih which we have, right? Mudakkir, musabbih, whatever you want to call it, tasbih. They saw him with this, and someone asked him that, Hazrat, you're such a well accomplished and you're a sheikh of such a high caliber, right? You have a high level of wilayah, a very deep connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why do you still walk around with this tasbih? You don't need this tasbih. The purpose of the tasbih is it reminds a person to remember Allah. That's why it's called, in Arabic, you call it mudakkir. One of the words is mudakkir, musabbih, right? But when you have the tasbih in your hand, it reminds you that I need to do tasbih, right? Otherwise, if it's in your pocket and you don't have it in your hand, you're going to forget, right? So the purpose of that is it reminds a person to remember Allah. And once a person remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time with their tongue, then they reach a level where they don't even need the tasbih. They just always remembering Allah, right? Even if they're busy with their work, with their family, inside of their hearts, they're remembering Allah. They said, oh Shaykh, you've reached that level. You don't need this tasbih in your hand anymore, right? You already remember Allah all the time. Then he said that this tasbih is that thing which got me to where I am today. If it wasn't for this tasbih, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So this tasbih may be a very humble beginning. So to remind myself of my humble beginning, that this tasbih is what made me reach this level, that is why I do not leave this tasbih. Meaning I don't feel that, oh, I'm so important now or I'm of such a high level, I don't need tasbih. That's the highest state. This no, it's like I still keep this in mind to remind myself that that this is what got me where I am today, right? So that humility that is there, that consistency upon dhikrullah. Then also when we look into the lives of the pious, that they will be so consistent with their adhkar and their ashghal and their daily practices that even right before they pass away, you would see that in the life of Hazrat Maulana Masihullah Khan Sahib rahmatullahi alayhi, a very great spiritual guide and mentor and sheikh, right, of the recent times. It is said that even the day he passed away, or the day before he passed away, even on that day he did not leave his ashghal, his dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And he would do audible dhikr al-jahri, right, as many of the mashayikh prescribe in a certain manner, specific manner. So someone recorded that, and that is also my sheikh Muasim bin Hafidullah, he mentions that he had that cassette and he heard that dhikr on his last day. So you wouldn't be able to tell that this person is in his last day of his life, right? That is the level of dhikr they had. And Hazrat Imam al-Hasan rahmatullah alayh, who many people know as one of the people who made a lot of effort in the field of da'wah and tabligh, right? Even him, it was his practice that every day after Fajr he would do his dhikr of Allah. And he had reached such a stage where he would be saying the name of Allah, the Ism-e-Dhat, Allah, Allah, 70,000 times on a daily basis. People know him as a person who was involved in tabligh, but at the same time he was a sheikh, and he was very much involved in tazkiyah as well. So 70,000 times he would take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis, right? So this was their level of connection that they had with dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no matter what, they would never leave that dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is like an inspiration for us as well. We should also, inshallah, try and act upon this and bring this dhikr in our lives. And I'll end off with one quote of our respected Shaykh Hafidhullah, Muhammad Sayyidullah Hafidhullah. He mentions that a person should be engaged so much in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the remembrance of Allah, that at the first level, to the extent that it helps a person stay away, it keeps the evil out of a person, because dhikr of Allah, it enlightens the heart. So a person should do so much dhikr that it enlightens the heart, so it keeps away the evil, right? And then on top of that, so one is that you do so much dhikr that evil will not affect you. And then you continue doing dhikr so much that not only will evil not affect you, but the goodness that is, and to read this dhikr in our life as well.